Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another week of breakdown and predictions. This week we got UFC Vegas 94. It's going to be headlined by Lemos and Jandiroba, and this is a good fight overall for the main event. I like it. It's a clash of styles. I see some people not really interested in the main event, but I do think it'll be good. And the card, though, overall, I think some weak fights on the card, but there's a couple spots that I'm confident in and I have some money on, so that's always good. And last week, I feel like we did decent predictions-wise. We had a couple good upset picks. We had the Charles Johnson pick. We had Muslim Salikov winning. But I want to lock in this week, do even better on my predictions, do well on my bets. So hopefully that's going to happen. I'm feeling pretty confident on the spots that I do have bet on this card thus far. And I do think it's going to be kind of a light betting card for UFC, but I have quite a few bets on the regionals that I'm eyeing. I've only put a couple in, but I think I'm going to have more money on regional events this week than I am going to have on the UFC. But ultimately, man, we're going to be trying to make some money regardless. Patreon.com/PredictionGuru. Go check it out. Go over there. Sign up and make sure that you become part of the community and you start making yourself some money over there. Over 250 units tracked lifetime. So definitely one of the better cappers out there giving information out. And yeah, man, besides that, hit the like button on this video. We got really close to 100 likes last time. I think we got like 96 likes. So want to see that 3-digit number there, man. Let's get to 100. And I would really appreciate it. And hit the comments down below as well. Let's try to get some interaction on this video. I think that, it'll do well for more people to see it if we get as much interaction as possible. So really appreciate everyone that's watching the video, that's supporting. And yeah, man, let's get in this first fight of the night. And kicking off the card, we got a lower level heavyweight fight. And one thing I am happy about is usually they stick these type of fights like on the main card or, the fight right before the main card. And I think they put them in the right spot here with the first fight of the night because both these guys, not necessarily the most fun heavyweights to watch either. So I feel like it's not the greatest fight and it's a difficult fight to break down because initially I was thinking Mo Usman all day. I just thought that athleticism-wise, he would have a big advantage, speed advantage on the feet, power advantage on the feet, sprawl and brawl could take him out. And his striking is subpar, but I feel like it is improving. And Peterson is just very hittable. But obviously, Peterson has that nice single leg, and I feel like Usman, that's one thing that he's worked on recently, and he's used it offensively is his wrestling. But how good is he going to do against someone trying to take him down? We haven't seen that in a while. I don't know if Peterson takes him down. Is it going to be like one takedown and the fight could be over for a guy like Muhammad Usman? But I just wasn't impressed with Peterson. In his debut, he fought Jamal Pogues, who Pogues is a bloated up, maybe even middleweight, but definitely someone that's not, shouldn't be a heavyweight. He's 265, and a lot of that is, just flubber. But Peterson just couldn't get the takedown, and on the feet, he couldn't get past the jab, and just kind of got beat up. He had a couple moments where he was able to back Pogues up and flurry on him, and I think that with Usman, he has to pressure and try to throw volume to get in on the legs. Usman isn't necessarily going to bring as good of a jab or things to intercept the forward pressure, so Peterson probably will be able to pressure in a little bit easier. It's just that Usman brings more of that oomph. He's going to be able to maybe sit down, land a big counter, and knock Peterson out, whereas Pogues was just kind of poking him the whole fight. But if Peterson can get the takedown, I just think he's going to be too slow. I feel like he could pressure and maybe have moments of success, but I think Usman's going to be landing the bigger shots. I think that he's gotten better at maintaining his cardio and composure on the feet, and I just feel like Usman's probably going to be able to keep it standing, and if he does get taken down, get back up to his feet. So I'm leaning towards Usman, and it's more just me thinking that he's the better athlete. So I'm going with Usman in that one, but not a super confident prediction. I think the line's pretty accurate. I think it should be a closely lined fight. Peterson obviously looked bad in his debut, but, maybe that could have been a little bit of jitters and things like that. But I just wasn't impressed with him outside the UFC either. So I'm leaning Usman, but this is one of these fights where Peterson took him down and controlled him. Then we just haven't really seen that from Usman recently. So I wouldn't be shocked, but I feel like Usman should know that if he keeps it standing, he's going to get the win, and I'm going to give it to Usman. And this next fight, we got Luana Carolina taking on Lucia Pudova, and I'm actually a fan of both these girls because I made money on them in the past, and I think they have fun fights at times. Other times they can have some stinkers, but interested to see how they're going to clash here. You look at Luana Carolina, and she's become a hard fight to deal with for a few reasons. I mean, on the feet, she has length, she moves a lot, she throws a lot of volume, decent kicks, and her punching technique's a little awkward, but she makes it work. Most of the time she's moving backwards, so unless she lands a head kick or a knee, there isn't really going to be a lot of power, but she stays active. She's throwing a lot of numbers, and defensively she's hittable. She's kind of awkward. She'll pull back with her chin in the air, but most of the fighters who fought Carolina for whatever reason have struggled to hit her to the head, and they've decided to kind of clinch a lot. And Carolina has improved her clinch game immensely. I mean, she's really good at reversing, controlling in the clinch. Her takedown defense and her grappling has become a lot better. And she's also gotten better with her offensive takedown. She makes mistakes on the ground, but she's solid everywhere. She's long. She has good cardio. So if you aren't well-rounded, she could beat you and kind of expose you. And fighters Carolina faces, to me, need to worry more about effective pressure and boxing. If they can get on the inside, avoid clinching, and just let the hand combos go, attack the body too, I feel like Carolina's a little bit susceptible to that. We also saw JoJo Wood land a lot of clean 1-2s. So we'll see, if Pudova can implement a smart game plan, but Pudova came into the UFC as a striker, but now she's lost a bit of her stand-up, I feel like, and went a lot more wrestling heavy, so I'm not sure if she's going to do that. I feel like Pudova on the feet is not as fluid anymore. She struggles to close the distance, and I think Carolina is going to be extremely hard for Pudova to get into a range and kind of land her shots on. Pudova is a dog, though. I mean, she can make fights, brawls, she throws down, and I think if she keeps it standing, it's going to be a tough night for her, though. I feel like she's just going to struggle with the length and the speed of Carolina and just the fluidity and the movement. But Lucy has gotten better with her wrestling, and it's going to be interesting to see if she can get into the range to shoot doubles. In the clinch, I feel like Carolina's going to have the edge there. So if Lucy gets the takedowns, it's going to have to be lower body takedowns. And if Pudova can get on top, I think she does do a good job with her control or ground and pound, and she maybe could grind it out. But I don't see her taking Carolina down if it's more of a clinch battle. And I think it may be a little bit tougher to get into the range where she could actually shoot in and set up a takedown that she's going to get on the lower body. But as far as grappling goes, I think Carolina maybe is slightly better, but probably whoever is on top is going to be the more effective grappler in that moment. I kind of expect Carolina to get the job done. I just think she's going to be more effective on the feet. I think she's more athletic, and Pudilova's going to struggle to get her offense going. And I think the takedown is not going to manifest as easily. I think that Carolina, if Pudova kind of gets desperate and shoots bad takedowns, can clinch her, reverse, and maybe put Pudilova on her back and break her. We saw Pudilova on her back in her last fight a lot. So I just think Carolina has more tools, more weapons, is more athletic, is going to be able to get the job done here over Pudilova. And up next here we got RABoff taking on Ogden, and this is a great matchup here. I mean, RABoff came into UFC. He looked really good in his debut. If I remember correctly, it was a back-and-forth fight, but he got the job done and had a bad loss, but then he came back and got another win over an up-and-comer his last fight. So kind of been a little up and down, but 2-1 and looking to move close to the top 15 with the win over another guy that's been up and down in the UFC, but more up lately on a win streak with Ogden. He should have 3 wins in a row, but had one victory taken away from him due to the ref stopping it early. And he's been looking really good recently, Ogden. So it's going to be a nice class of styles here too, because we got a guy in RABoff. He's, big, bulky, super strong, comes in and uses his athleticism, his explosiveness. He's throwing big punches. He's a great wrestler, and that's primarily his weapon. versus someone like Trey Ogden, who's a technician. He's someone that's maybe not necessarily as built up and strong physically. He's not as athletic and explosive as RABoff, but he has the basics down on the feet really well. He could jab you to death and keep you at bay. He's a great mover. They call him the Ghost for a reason, and then he can mix in takedowns, great timing, good top control, solid submission game, and just has a full well-rounded arsenal that he brings to the cage, along with fight IQ that he has from coaching and running a gym as well. So he's definitely the real deal, but he's going to have to figure out how to move around the cage, the smaller octagon with RABoff, and not get backed up. You know, he needs to have that jab, you know, really popping in this fight, and he needs to have the movement really going well side to side, because you saw certain portions of the fight with Kurhalaba, even though it was a dominant victory for Ogden, primarily through his wrestling and his top control, he was getting backed up and clipped a little bit, and RABoff brings that effective pressure, especially early on before he gets tired. So for the first, 7 or 8 minutes, I think Ogden needs to be really aware to stay mobile and not let RABoff kind of get into the fight or land a big bomb on him on the feet and gain some confidence. But overall, I think in the stand-up, Ogden should be a lot smoother and cleaner. RABoff, he likes the 3-2s, the big lead hook, but he's loading everything that he throws, and everything's with power. So I feel like that jab, the straight punches from Ogden are really going to land nicely, and he just needs to keep the activity rate high so RABoff doesn't, slip and land something big, and also stay, real crisp with his punches, not get lazy and stuff like that. And I wouldn't engage in too much wrestling early. I mean, maybe second, third round, once you see RABoff get frustrated with the movement, overextend, maybe you could time a takedown, put him on his back, and start to really wear on that gas tank that RABoff historically doesn't have the greatest. But RABoff is a really good wrestler, and that's something that he is going to have the advantage of over almost everyone that he fights. You could tell that when he gets a hold of like a single or a double, he's usually going to get it, man. He's extremely strong. So Ogden just has to be aware, that he may get put on his back here. And I wouldn't play too much jiu-jitsu. Maybe if you can catch him when he's tired late with the guillotine or a submission like that, then that would be great. But if you get taken out early, try to get back up and wear on that gas, take RABoff, and don't let him rest and get an early lead without doing a lot of cardio output. So for Ogden, I think he's going to have a good game plan, which I expect him to have. And if he does, I think he can get the job done. I feel like on the feet, he's going to be able to stick and move and be more effective, I think, as long as he doesn't get clipped with a big shot. And if he can either get back up to his feet and then extend the fight or stuff the takedowns, then I think that he's going to maybe be able to really be fairly dominant as the fight gets later. And I could see him maybe getting to finish late in the fight or submission late in the fight. So I think Ogden is going to get the job done here as long as he comes in and fights on point. RABoff is a dangerous opponent, but I just think Ogden is going to be a little bit too slick for him in this spot.
And for this next matchup here, we got a women's flyweight fight. Miranda Maverick taking on Barbosa. And short notice matchup. Miranda Maverick was actually supposed to fight Tracy Cortez, who we just saw fight last weekend in the main event. And Barbosa, I don't think, had a fight scheduled, so she's coming in here on relatively short notice. And she has a big-time fight here. I mean, she just won her debut by split decision, and it was against an opponent that was like 5-0 or something like that. She herself only has 9 fights, and now she's coming in fighting a 20-fight veteran who has quite a few fights in the UFC. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but she might have more UFC fights than Barbosa has total fights in her career, and if not, it's probably fairly close. But if Barbosa gets this win, I mean, she's going to be right in the mix and be a ranked fighter, so it's a worthwhile opportunity. I see a lot of love for Barbosa, and I think she's good. I mean, she definitely looks skilled on the feet. She has good pressure. She controls the distance well as she pressures and kind of tries to counter you with the 1-2s, 3-2s. Great athlete, good hand speed. Looks like she has some decent power. And then her judo's on point, and when she gets on top, she is dangerous from the top position. Some things I don't like about her, though, is it seems like she slows down pretty significantly, and we've seen that in more than one fight. I saw it in the fight where she lost against Jenna Bishop. Her UFC debut, even, she got tired and kind of slowed down after she almost got the submission in the first round. And I think she can get taken down and put on her back, and she could start to kind of concede position and make mistakes. So I just feel like Maverick, as long as she comes in here on point and looks good, I don't see her getting put on her back and getting held down like she has against these other top-level grapplers. Even if she gets judo thrown or taken down one time, I think she can work back up to her feet. And in the stand-up, I think that it could be competitive for the first round, maybe a round and a half. But I think when Barbosa starts to slow down, Maverick could pick up the offense and take over in the stand-up. Barbosa, with a full camp, I think would have a better chance. But even then, I still think that her cardio issues and some of her other issues that she has could potentially just befell her in a matchup like this. I mean, you look at Miranda Maverick, I think she's a pretty solid fighter. I mean, even her losses, they've been against really good competition. So I feel like Maverick should get the victory here, but the line's a little off. I mean, I don't think that she should be as big a favorite as she is, so I'm not sure about parlaying her up and things like that, but I think Maverick is going to get the victory and more than likely win via decision. And man, all right, we got Brian Keller versus Cody Gibson. This fight, this was a tough one for me, man. I mean, I'm like the resident Cody Gibson hater, I'll say that. It's not like I don't like the guy, but every fight I feel like he opens at a crazy line. It's like, at least his recent fights, like his fight with Katona, it was like even money. And then the line with Johns, I feel like, was fairly close as well. And I'm just not sold on Cody Gibson like that. I feel like he has a lot of flaws. He's good in the first round, but I think he cuts too much weight. And Brian Kelleher, though, hasn't won in a long time, had a lot of physical problems, and recently he's been getting finished pretty quickly. His last fight with Cody Garbrandt, it was a pretty bad knockout loss in the first round for him. I don't know if he got knocked out, but it looked like he broke his face or something happened, and he went down, man, and it wasn't pretty. But when you're looking at this fight, I mean, I feel like this should be a 50-50 fight. I don't get why Gibson is such a favorite. I mean, the guy has been more active. You can give him that, but he's old. I mean, he's older than Keller, who's also, an older fighter in the weight class. And he just hasn't been looking the greatest. I feel like he's someone that came into MMA as a wrestler, and he still has those roots, but he doesn't have the faith to wrestle for 3 rounds without getting tired. So he's trying to kind of implement this pressure stalking and using his height and reach striking game, which he's decent at. I mean, but he doesn't throw a lot of volume. His chin is right in the air. I feel like Kelleher could come over and land that boom left hook or maybe a big punch. And if you look at Cody Gibson's career, a lot of his losses as well, the majority of his submission losses are guillotines. So if Gibson gets tired or gets rocked, shoots in with a bad takedown, leaves his neck out there, you know how good Brian Keller is at hitting that guillotine. So I think that's another avenue that Keller can win. So I think Keller has potential ways to finish this fight. And you look at Gibson, I mean, if they stay standing for 3 rounds at distance, Gibson is going to win. He's going to be able to land kicks and straight punches, kind of just chop up Keller a little bit. And maybe Gibson will be able to do what these other guys have done to Keller, which is take him down early and submit him. Keller maybe is just totally washed. I mean, we have to see. This is the last fight on Keller's contract as well, and it seems like he's very pumped up, ready to go. It's his 40th fight of his career, so that could also maybe potentially have some meaning for him. But I just feel like Keller Keller is going to find a way to get this job done, man. I mean, maybe I'm just seeing it with different glasses because I'm picking against Gibson every time, and I've been correct recently. But I just feel like Gibson may start well and maybe winning the fight, but I think that Keller is going to find that chin with the hook, or he's going to be able to snatch up the neck, and I think we're going to see Keller in the winning column. We've seen Keller win in the UFC quite a few times, step up to the moment, beat guys that he shouldn't have been able to beat or shouldn't have beaten on paper. And recently he's been doing not so well. He's had some health issues, but I feel like in this fight he's going to find a way to get the finish here on Gibson, who I think is a little bit on the way out. You know, he came in through the Ultimate Fighter, had that great fight with Katona. He was a little bit on a high. And then Miles Johns kind of, I think, brought him back to reality a little bit, where it's going to be tough for him to get motivated again and try to move up to the top. So it's kind of a make-or-break fight for both guys here. And I'm going to slightly lean with the upset and go with Brian Keller to get the win. And up next here, I got to credit whoever put this fight together, because this is a great matchup. Awesome matchup. Two guys that you could say they're prospects. I think Hyder's on a little bit of the older side, but they both have not had many fights in the UFC, and UFC's kind of still trying to figure out exactly where they are in the division. But the way these guys match up, it's an awesome matchup, because you got a guy like Jiang Li who's very solid in his stance. You know, he has that wide stance, heavy base, where you can clip him if you're fast. You know, you can close that distance and land on his chin. We've had guys that have been able to close the gap on him and clinch him against a cage or take him down, but he's throwing heavy, and when he lands his 1-2s or his uppercut or his counter knees, he's throwing to knock you out. And if he lands clean, he can put your lights out. And he's had some very quick finishes. He has shown as well in his last fight with Blake Builder that he could defend takedowns against the cage. I think he needs to improve his cage wrestling and getting out of the clinch and back to the center a little bit more, but he was able to defend a lot of the takedowns against Builder. When they were out at space, he was just too fast, and he was timing Builder, catching him as he was closing distance, and just racking up the points. Builder was really tough, and he couldn't get knocked out, but that was good to see from Lee as well, because his gas tank had been a little bit questionable in previous fights. That one, it seemed like he held up a little bit better. And in this fight, we're really going to see it, because Lee, you know, his last fight, he defended the takedowns, showed good cardio, but his first UFC fight, whereas the Road to UFC finale, a lot of people thought he lost that matchup, even though he got the split decision win. He was taken down, he was controlled for a lot of the fight, and I think that's exactly what Hyder Emil's going to try to do. And then you look at Hyder Emil, he's one of these guys that walks through shots, so he's definitely going to give Jiang Li, at least if he fights historically how he always has, the opportunity to knock him out. But Emil is someone that is undefeated at 9-0, and he's been able to just eat guys' shots, walk them down, throw big punches. You know, he attacks the body and, you know, puts that pressure on you. And he's very physical. He could wrestle you. He could slam you, take you to the ground. And his aggressiveness and forward pressure has gotten himself taken down in fights. But with this one, with Lee, I don't think that that's going to be his game plan. And even if he does try to take Hyder down, Hyder's more than likely going to be more physical, and he's good in that type of fight where it's a scramble fight, and I just don't think that Lee wants to engage in that. So Hyder is going to have to figure out, in my opinion, though, how to do damage, because if he's getting clipped, you know, for a couple minutes at range before he finds the opportunity to close the gap and put Lee against the cage or double leg him or something, he has to do damage to offset that. And I could see it playing out where it's a fight like Lee's landing a lot of offense on the outside, similar to the fight with Builder, and then Emil's maybe clinching him against a fence, getting a couple takedowns, and it becomes a really close, subjective fight. But Lee also has a chance to maybe be the first guy to knock Emil out. I mean, he could run him into an elbow, a big shot, and Emil is reckless. So I think it's a great matchup, because I feel like both guys could potentially expose the other. But skills-wise, I think Lee is more skilled. He's younger. He's going to have an opportunity to continue to grow, and he knows what these guys want to do to him, which is smother him, take him down, back him up, make it an ugly fight. So he's going to be getting better in that realm. And with Hyder, I feel like he only has one way to fight. It's be reckless, forward pressure, wild, push the pace, try to break his opponent because he's not that skilled and he doesn't have the youth to, gain a lot of that anymore. So I feel like Lee is the rightful favorite, and I think he's going to get the job done via decision. But this could be a fight where it's like Lee does damage and you think he wins, but then they give the fight to Emil due to control. So I see this as a close fight and wouldn't be shocked if Emil won and a lot of people cried robbery. But I think Jiang Liang Lee is just going to do more damage. And when you look at the scoring criteria, that's what wins you fights. I feel like he's going to be the better striker at distance. Emil may take him down or clinch him up a little bit, but I think he's not going to do a lot of damage. And I think Lee is going to be able to do a little bit better defending this time than he has in other fights, hopefully. So I'm going to go with Lee to get the win via decision. And kicking off the main card, we got another badass fight right here with Choy. He's taking on Bill Algeo. And should be a really fun striking fight. Choy, his career really didn't pan out how people thought. I mean, they were calling him the Korean Conor McGregor and everything like that. He was getting, I think he got, 3 quick knockouts in a row, 4 quick knockouts in a row when he started his UFC career. But took some setbacks, had a couple of knockout losses, and his last fight he had the draw with Kyle Nelson. But what's been worse for him than just the results is just the inactivity. I think that since 2019, he's only fought like 2 times, something like that, coming off another layoff where he hadn't fought in a year and a half. And he said after his last fight, which I thought he had a good performance, but he was saying that he definitely felt the ring rust and he was sore. So now he's coming off another long layoff here. So I don't know exactly how he's going to feel. And that is a big factor, especially with a guy like Bill Algeo, who usually every time he goes out there is going to perform, do well, and he's active. Algeo kind of got screwed in his last fight where I feel like there was a premature stoppage. He didn't get dropped. He was still standing, and he was taking some punches, but he was moving, and I feel like the ref just went in there a little bit too quickly and cost Bill Algeo that loss. But he has to come back in this fight and, hopefully not get hurt like that to give a opportunity for a ref to stop the fight and just perform how he knows he has to do and get this victory. And you look at how these guys match up, man, it's a great fight because I think Choy, if he can maintain his cardio, with that pressure, he comes forward, he does a great job of landing his jab, landing that straight left hand, throws with a lot of power. On the inside, he has nice power hooks, and I feel like he has a lot better boxing than Algeo when he's sharp early. Offensively, he throws with more heat, and if he could back Algeo up and land some body head combinations, get the jab going, he could really get a lot of good work off. Along with the low kicks, I think the leg kicks could potentially be there to be landed for Choy, but on the other side with Algeo, where I think he could be effective is extending the combinations. I mean, you see Choy, he throws these power shots, and then defensively, he'll kind of pull back to evade the first shot. And if you could extend that combination, and Algeo does a good job of throwing these switch stance straight shots and coming in with off-angle punches and kicks and things like that. And I feel like he could clip Choy as he's moving backwards, thinking that he's out of range, and really hurt Choy. But Choy also has the ability to hurt Algeo as well. So that's what makes this fight a little bit interesting. But what I don't like about Choy is his cardio, man. I feel like if he had good cardio, I think he could come in here with a different game plan, even maybe clinch heavy, try to corral Algeo and mix it up. But I just think that he slows down and Algeo doesn't get tired. And if Algeo doesn't get hurt or rocked in these first 2 rounds and makes the fight very close, I think he'll win the decision. I could even see him getting a late finish here if Choy slows down a little bit. Algeo starts to extend his combos. He could maybe hurt him and submit him or get him out of there with the TKO. So I'm leaning more towards Bill Algeo on this one. I just like that he's more active, and I feel like his creative striking could give Choy some issues. With Choy, he's going to be real solid and dangerous early, but I think if Bill Algeo could survive that storm, he's going to get the job done. So Algeo is going to be the prediction for me. And up next here, we got flyweight fight. It's a banger, man. Cody Durden taking on Bruno Silva. And Cody Durden, he's kind of turned into like the blue-collar guy, the flyweight division. Anytime you need someone to take a short notice fight, call Cody Durden. He's going to be there. He's going to bring his hard hat, and it's going to be, a hell of a matchup. Cody Durden, he can compete with anybody. He's coming off a loss, and he's had some wins, had some losses in the UFC, but some of his performances have been really top-notch, and trains with the champ Pantoja. He's definitely a formidable fighter. Bruno Silva, someone that also has lineage to a former champion where he trains with Henry Cejudo, fight ready in that camp. And one thing I wish with Silva that he would adopt more from Cody Durden is just the activity. He has not fought that frequently. He's coming off another long layoff. And he's not the youngest guy in the world. I think he's a little bit older as well. So hopefully he could start to fight and be more active. But this is a hard fight to come back from off of a layoff, Cody Durden. And matchup-wise, it's a really good fight. I mean, you look at Bruno Silva, he's a brawler, man. He wants to come forward, throw heavy hands. He's not looking to throw out any feelers. He's throwing big left hooks, he's throwing big overhand rights, and he's trying to take your head off with these power punches. He throws big hard calf kicks, and he's coming forward, walking you down, trying to get in your face. And you look at Tagir Ulanbekov, he was able to move around, jab Bruno Silva up, and mix in a couple takedowns, win that way, and that's exactly what Cody Durden is going to want to do. Cody Durden's real light on his feet. He can move well. He could switch stances. So I'd be switching stances, trying to take away the leg kicks. I would be popping the jab out there, trying to intercept Silva with straight punches. And obviously, maybe touching the jab and then feigning it and hitting the takedown and getting on top, making Bruno Silva work to stand up. And Bruno Silva is one of these guys that can be taken down, but he's a block bone jiu-jitsu. It's going to be hard to submit him or do much to him on the ground, and then he could scramble really well. He can get back up to his feet. He's a strong physical guy for the weight. So I think Durden's going to have to work and put in a lot of output, but we've seen him shoot, 20-plus takedowns in a fight, and I think that Durden has that type of gas tank to be able to do that. And Silva, I think he's going to rely on big moments in this fight where I don't necessarily know if he's going to be able to keep up with the activity of Durden, if Durden's able to move around, mix in the jab, throw some straight punches, mix in a little bit of these kicks, shoot, even if he's not hitting the takedowns, he's working, he's throwing in some offense, and then maybe even getting a takedown or two as well. Whereas Silva is going to be walking him down and trying to land these big single shots or maybe 2-3s at most, big leg kicks. And when he connects, I think it's going to be big, powerful strikes, but I don't think he's going to be connecting as much. And I don't think he's going to want to grapple with Durden or wrestle with him, I should say more kind of accurately there. But I just think Durden is going to be more active and be able to mix it up and kind of have that similar game plan that Tagir had. It's just Durden sometimes can get clipped, man. And if he gets clipped and hurt against Silva, then he could get finished. I mean, we've seen him get rocked and submitted a couple times now. So I think if Silva was more active and, if he was fighting and looking good and I knew exactly where he was at with his age and everything like that, I might lean with Bruno Silva. But under the circumstances that we currently have, I'm going to go with Durden here. I know Durden's coming off that loss, but I think that him being in there more, him just doing a little bit more when the fight starts, I think he's going to maybe have the gas tank advantage. And I think Durden's good, man. I think he's a hard guy to beat. So I think he's going to be able to edge it here and get this victory over a really tough Bruno Silva. And in this next fight, we got Kurt Holoba. He's probably fighting for his UFC career, taking on Keski, who's coming off a bad performance, not a bad performance. I honestly thought he was doing decent, but knockout loss in his debut to Elvis Brenner, which that's a tough guy to fight for your first UFC fight. But this is another tough one, man. I mean, Kurt Holobaugh, he's definitely getting up there in age, and he's not exactly what he used to be. It seems like his wrestling is non-existent at this point. He can't stop a takedown, and Keski is more of a striker, but maybe he will mix it in and get him down. I mean, we saw him do it on the Contender Series, and I've seen him get a couple takedowns in some other fights, but both these guys are strikers. Holobaugh likes to pressure, throw big power hooks, and he has decent boxing on the inside. He's very durable. He's hard to knock out, so he could eat shots to give shots and turn fights into a brawl. With Keski, he likes to throw a lot of long, straight punches. He goes to the body, he goes to the head, he throws leg kicks. So he attacks all parts of the body. He throws a lot of volume. I don't think he's like a big power hitter, but he definitely is walking you down and putting the output on you. And his defense isn't the greatest, but he has that subtle head movement. He can kind of slip and rip a little bit. I feel like he's going to be doing more on the feet. It's just, is Holobaugh going to be able to absorb the early damage, get Keski a little bit tired, and then touch that chin? I mean, that's a possibility, I feel like. But I think that Keski is going to win the stand-up. And I could even see him mixing in a couple of takedowns. It's just, you look at his career, he hasn't really beaten anybody, so I understand why the line is close. But I feel like Holobaugh's kind of at the end of it. He's just coming in here to cash these last few paychecks, and I think Keski's a little hungrier. He's going to be able to, even if the fight's a war, be able to handle that, and it'll be a fun stand-up fight, and then mix in a couple of takedowns and seal that victory. So I'm going with the younger guy here. I'm going with the guy that's fresher. I'm going with Kenan Keski. And this next fight should be an all-action stand-up fight with Steve Garcia and Seungwoo Choy. I could see Garcia coming in here and trying to mix in the takedowns, but I don't think it's going to be that effective. And Choy, I think, has actually gotten a lot better with defending takedowns and even getting clutch takedowns himself. So ultimately, I mean, early on, it's definitely going to be a war. I mean, that's what Steve Garcia brings. He comes forward throwing these bombs, crazy fighter. And he has insane knockout power. Recently, he's been able to catch these guys' chins and put him to sleep. But I think this is a hard matchup for him. I mean, we saw Choy fight Julian Erosa, who I think, I don't want to say is a better version of Garcia, but they both come in, they try to pressure and be wild, and they're way different in how they approach it. But I just feel like Choy's a slick striker. He's composed. He does a good job handling pressure and wild strikers. They can catch you coming down the middle with nice straight punches and precision, and he has some decent pop and power. So it's just going to come down to, is Garcia going to get clipped like he did against Mahishata, like he even did in his last, or I don't know if it was his last fight, or I can't remember if it was that fight or the fight before when he fought Nerdy and Becky, but when he fought him and got rocked and almost finished? Or is he going to get to Choy first? So Choy's also chinny. Choy leaves his chin out there to be hit, so I'm not saying Choy's definitely someone that I'm confident in either. And this fight is kind of a crapshoot to me. It's kind of whoever lands first the cleanest. I'm going to go with Steve Garcia just because I think that right now he's been winning. He's been looking good. He's been getting these knockouts. He has the momentum and the confidence. Choy, he's coming off a victory too with Jarno Aarons, but I don't know. I feel like that fight he got rocked. He almost got finished, and I'm just slightly leaning with Garcia, but I really don't have a confident read on this fight. I feel like it could go either way. So people in the comments, I mean, tell me who you think is going to win this one and try to give me a better read on this fight, because at this moment, I'm really going back and forth and kind of don't have a very confident prediction at all. And in the co-main event, we got Brad Tavares taking on Jun Young Park. Another good fight. I actually like the main card more than I thought on this fight night. So I'm a little bit more excited for it now that I've broken it down a little bit more and just thought about these matchups a little bit more. But Brad Tavares, Jun Young Park. It's a tough one, I feel like, as well. I've said that a lot on a lot of these fights, but I just think it's true. I mean, Park, he hasn't fought someone that has the striking prowess of someone like Brad Tavares. I mean, who have we seen Park fight that throws nice calf kicks, that has good basics, nice jab, good 1-2s down the middle? We haven't really seen too many clean strikers that Park has fought. He's fought a lot of grapplers. He's fought a lot of brawlers and stuff like that, but it's going to be a real clean technical striker. And Park is a guy that is a little bit plotty with this pressure, but he comes forward, he throws a really nice jab and has excellent volume with his hands when he can back you up. And that's what Tavares does not want to have happen, and where he can't be in this fight, because Tavares' chin is definitely getting a little bit suspect, and he likes to play in the pocket and exchange, and he's good at it, but when he gets clipped, he just doesn't take these shots as well anymore. And with Park's a little bit tricky, a little bit sneaky, so I would be really heavy on the jab, on the low kicks, on the movement if I'm Brad Tavares, trying to throw hard single shots and avoid being where your back's near the fence and avoid kind of turning it into a brawl. And that's where you're going to get the better of it, because I feel like Park's going to eat these low kicks. I think that the jab is going to be effective. I feel like Tavares, he's going to shut down the wrestling that Park is going to bring. I mean, Tavares' wrestling defense is really good, and I just feel like Park's not going to be able to take him down and hold him down that effectively. Brad's chin is a question for me, man. I feel like his chin is definitely going. So that's what makes this fight a lot closer in my eyes. But I'm going to Tavares, man. I just think Tavares is going to be the better stand-up guy. I think that Park's going to struggle to back him up and get these combos going, because Tavares is going to be stinging him and landing hard shots as well. And I don't think that Park's going to be able to wrestle him. So I'm going to say Tavares gets a lot of damage off those low kicks, lands that jab often, and just wins in Brad Tavares' fashion via decision. And finally, we got the main event. We got Amanda Lemos taking on Virna Jandiroba in a battle of two top 5 strawweights. If Virna wins this one, man, I mean, they're probably going to make her fight one more fight, but she's getting really, really close to a title shot. And with her age and her resume, I mean, 14-3, really excellent record. She's racking up wins over pretty high-level opponents at this point, especially if she can get Lemos under her resume as well. So Virna is an underrated fighter, and she's taking on a former champion here, someone that rose and got a high profile due to her style, whereas Virna's kind of on the opposite of that, where her style kind of hinders her. It's not as entertaining, and has a name. So if Virna can beat her, especially in her first main event with the UFC, that's going to position her to be, right there for the belt, like I said. And for Amanda, she came back, got the win in a close fight with Mackenzie Dern after the title fight loss to Weili Zhang. So if she can get another win here over Jandiroba, I think she's going to need to do more work, just because as long as Zhang is the champion, that fight wasn't competitive at all. But she'll still be in the mix at least, and she's a little bit older, so I guess both these girls are. So neither can really afford to lose and slip back in the weight class. But stylistically, it's a clash of styles, because Lemos, she's someone that similar to what I was saying about some of these other fighters on this card, where they're very wide base, where they're standing, real heavy. And she's light on her feet when she wants to be and can move in and out, but she likes to sit down and throw heat. And she's better to me when she's composed and is trying to time you with that rear cross or the 1-2. And when she connects, obviously she has crazy power, but she's also one of these people that will really plant her feet and wing punches, and that gets her taken down, that can get her countered. And she'll throw a lot of leg kicks and things like that. But in this fight with Jandiroba, I don't know if her kicking arsenal is going to be there for her. I feel like she's really going to try to mute a lot of the kicks due to Virna's ability to potentially take her down. And it's also going to make her hesitant to throw. I feel like she's very low volume as it is. And Virna's going to be pressuring. She's going to be active. And Virna's striking is a lot better than people give it credit for because she has that threat of the takedown and she's aggressive and she actually has some pop. So I feel like Virna could be competitive on the feet with Lemos, honestly. I think that obviously Lemos is going to have a big advantage. And there's a lot of optics that are not good for Jandiroba. Like, even when, let's say, she could be winning a little bit, some minutes in the stand-up and getting clipped, but it's nothing serious. It just looks so awkward that it's hard to have a clear perception that she's winning. But obviously, when she gets it to the ground and if she can get on top of Lemos, that's her world, and she's a beast on top. I mean, really, really good jiu-jitsu, excellent control. She's slick with her submission game, and she's super strong. I mean, her takedowns against the cage are really good. If she can back you up, put you up against the cage, she could take down almost anybody. And I do think she's going to be able to take down Lemos and dominate early. I feel like that unless Lemos could just catch her, and knock her out and kind of make it null and void, which no one's ever finished Jandiroba, so that's going to be a tough task in it of itself. But I just see these early rounds, more than likely like the first round, probably the second round, Virna getting the takedown, blanketing Lemos, controlling her, and if she gets the submission and goes home, that's going to be best case scenario for Virna Jandiroba backers, because what I'm most worried about with Virna in this fight is her gas tank, man. I mean, she really gets tired. Her last fight, she was able to win that third round and kind of squeak it out, which we haven't seen her win very many third rounds in her career, but she tends to slow down, and Lemos is one of these girls that's proven that she's a survivor on the ground. She's hard to finish, and if Jandiroba gasses out in the third and is starting to look really sloppy on the feet, panic shots, we could see the momentum in the fight change and Lemos take over. But honestly, man, I mean, this is Virna's shot right here, and you can't let conditioning be why you lose this fight. I feel like it's a great matchup for her. She's moving into the title picture, and if she gets tired and loses this fight after dominating for a couple rounds, she only has herself to blame, because she can go out there and get herself in the best shape possible for this fight, and she needs to be on point. And if she is, I think she can go out there and be dominant in this fight. And she goes out there and gets an early submission. I mean, that's a big statement to potentially maybe jump the line all the way to a title shot next. So I'm going with Virna in the main event. I think she's going to get this victory, but man, I mean, if this gets in the round 3, 4, 5, that's going to be interesting, because that's going to be telling to see how far maybe Virna can go potentially in the weight class, and if she's going to get the win on this night even. So Virna's going to be the pick for me, and I think she's going to get the job done. So give me Virna Jandiroba in that fight. So there you guys have it. That's my full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Vegas 94. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned something. Make sure to hit the like button. Like I said at the top of the video, let's try to get to 100 likes. We got like 96 last week, so we're almost there, man. I mean, just hit the like button. It's free. It's easy. Helps the channel. Put a comment down below. Like I said about the Steve Garcia fight, I want to know what you guys think about that. Who are you confident in, Garcia or Choy, and why, and everything like that, because that fight I'm really struggling with a prediction. And outside of that, man, for my most confident pick on this card, man, I mean, that's kind of a tough one. It's definitely a lot of very closely lined fights. I guess I'll say Algeo, but I'm not feeling super bullish on that. But as far as a play of the week that I'll give you guys that I think is a good play, I think Luana Carolina is a good play, anywhere up to like minus 140. I just feel like she's going to separate herself and get this victory here. So Carolina is going to be the play of the week that I give you guys. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back soon breaking down another fight card. And yeah, thanks for always supporting the channel.